Imagine waking up tomorrow and discovering that every problem in your life has disappeared. No bills, no deadlines, no hunger, no danger. Every meal appears exactly when you need it. Every threat has vanished. Every day is comfortable, predictable, and safe. It sounds like the dream humanity has been chasing for thousands of years. But what if that dream came with a hidden cost? What if a life without struggle slowly erased the very things that make life worth living? More than 50 years ago, one scientist decided to find out.
He didn't ask people. He built an entire world instead. A world so carefully designed that nothing could possibly go wrong. Or so he thought. What happened next became one of the most disturbing behavioral experiments ever conducted. Not because its inhabitants starved, but because they stopped behaving like a society long before they stopped breathing. This was Universe 25, and its real lesson has been misunderstood for decades. By the late 1960s, American behavioral scientist John B. Calhoun had become obsessed with a question that sounded almost impossible. What happens when survival is no longer a challenge? For thousands of years, every animal, including humans, had been shaped by hardship. Finding food required effort. Protecting territory required courage. Raising a family demanded cooperation. Every generation inherited a purpose because survival depended on it. But Calhoun wondered what would happen if every one of those pressures simply disappeared. Would conflict vanish? Would society become peaceful? Or would removing every obstacle create problems no one expected? It wasn't just an interesting theory. It became his life's work. Over 2 decades, Calhoun built experiment after experiment, 24 in total. Each one removed more hardship. Each one promised a better life. And every single one ended the same way. The population grew, the social structure collapsed, the colony died. Most scientists dismissed those earlier results, so Calhoun built one final universe, a place so carefully designed that no one could question the outcome. The enclosure looked less like a laboratory and more like a luxury city.
Food dispensers never emptied. Fresh water flowed endlessly. The temperature never changed. There were no predators, no diseases, no harsh weather. According to Calhoun, nearly 4,000 mice could comfortably live there. To begin, he introduced only 8. 4 males, 4 females. Then he closed the door. None of them would ever leave. At first, everything unfolded exactly as expected. The mice explored, they learned every tunnel, they claimed territories, families formed, the first litter arrived, then another, then another. Without predators or food shortages, the colony expanded at an astonishing pace. Every few weeks, the population nearly doubled. To anyone watching, Universe 25 looked like proof that paradise worked. But appearances can be deceiving. Because while the population was growing, something invisible was quietly disappearing. And almost nobody noticed. In nature, young males eventually leave home. They search for new territory, they compete, they build families. That struggle isn't just about survival. It's how purpose is created. Universe 25 erased that journey. Every nesting space had already been claimed. Every direction ended at another wall. An entire generation reached adulthood with nowhere to go. Some simply stopped trying. Calhoun watched groups of perfectly healthy young males gathering in the center of the enclosure. They weren't resting. They weren't defending anything. They weren't preparing for the future. They simply existed. When another mouse attacked them, many barely reacted. They absorbed the blows, walked away, and returned to doing nothing. But not everyone became passive.
Another group moved in the opposite direction. They became increasingly aggressive. They attacked without warning, ignored the social rules that had governed mouse colonies for generations. Violence no longer served a purpose. Food was unlimited. Water was unlimited. Yet conflict became constant. The paradise hadn't eliminated aggression. It had made aggression meaningless. The females changed too. Many withdrew from the colony.
Some isolated themselves in the highest nesting boxes. Others stopped reproducing altogether. Those that continued raising young struggled to protect them in an increasingly unstable environment. Stress replaced stability. Some abandoned their pups. Others failed to care for them. Infant survival collapsed. The colony wasn't running out of food, it was running out of functioning relationships. Then another strange behavior appeared. Every feeding station contained the same unlimited food, yet the mice crowded around only a handful of them. Others remained almost untouched. They no longer gathered because they needed food, they gathered because everyone else was already there. Normal behavior was being replaced by imitation. The next generation inherited something even worse. They had never seen a healthy society. No stable fathers, no functioning communities, no meaningful social roles. They had nothing to copy, nothing to become. Then Calhoun observed the final generation.
At first glance, they looked like the healthiest mice in the colony. Their fur was spotless. Their bodies carried almost no scars. They had never fought, never defended territory, never experienced hardship. They appeared perfect. Calhoun called them the beautiful ones. But their beauty hid a disturbing truth. They showed little interest in mating, little interest in defending territory, little interest in social interaction. Their lives followed the same endless routine. Eat, sleep, groom, repeat. They devoted extraordinary amounts of time to keeping themselves perfectly clean. Appearance became their entire identity. Everything else disappeared. They weren't choosing comfort over responsibility. They had simply grown up in a world where responsibility no longer existed. By day 560, the colony reached roughly 2,200 mice. It should have continued growing. Resources remained abundant. Nothing physical prevented expansion. Yet births slowed. Then they stopped completely. The final successful birth occurred long before the experiment ended. After that, the colony entered a slow-motion extinction. One by one, the oldest mice died. No new generation replaced them. The once crowded enclosure became quieter. The nesting boxes emptied. Finally, on May 23, 1973, the last mouse died. Universe 25 was over. Most people stop the story there. They conclude that comfort destroys society, that abundance inevitably leads to collapse. It's a powerful message, but it isn't what Calhoun actually believed. Reading his conclusions reveals something far more interesting. He never argued that food or safety caused the collapse. Those were merely the conditions. The real problem was the disappearance of meaningful social roles. As the population grew, fewer individuals could find a purpose within the community. Young males couldn't establish territory, adults stopped protecting families, mothers raised offspring without stable support. The next generation inherited confusion instead of guidance. Food remained, water remained, shelter remained. What disappeared was purpose. Calhoun described this as the first death, not the death of the body, but the death of behavior. Long before the last mouse stopped breathing, the colony had already stopped functioning as a society. The physical deaths came later. They were simply the final consequence. And here's the part that is almost always left out. Calhoun wasn't trying to prove humanity was doomed. He spent the rest of his career searching for ways to prevent the same outcome. He believed humans possess something mice do not: the ability to create new forms of purpose. When physical frontiers disappear, we explore intellectual ones. We invent, we build, we teach, we create communities, we discover new ideas. He called this ideational generativity, the ability to continuously create new reasons to contribute. Universe 25 was never just a story about mice. It was a question directed at us. Can a society survive on comfort alone? Or does every generation need meaningful challenges, responsibilities, and reasons to belong? The mice never had the chance to answer those questions. They were trapped inside the world that had been built for them. We aren't. And perhaps that's the most important lesson Universe 25 leaves behind. Paradise isn't having everything you've ever wanted.
It's waking up every morning with a reason to become something more.